Hello everyone, back with me, Maxillary Setiawan from P1 of the third semester of the English Language and Culture Study Program. So today I want to discuss about phonetic and phonology, morphology, and syntax. So let's get started. So now I will discuss about phonetics and phonology, the study of sounds and phonemes. Phonetics. Phonetics is a branch of linguistics that studies sounds in human language. This includes how sound is produced, its physical properties, and how the sound is perceived by the listener. There are three main branches in phonetics. For the first is articulatory phonetics, studying how sounds are produced by speech organs. It includes the analysis of the position and movement of the tongue, lips, and other parts of the vocal touch. For example, when pronouncing the sound p, both lips are closed and the air is trapped before being released. The second one is acoustic phonetics, focus on the physical properties of sound and how the sound moves through the air in the form of sound waves. This includes frequency analysis, amplitude, and duration of sound. And the third one is auditory phonetics, studying how humans hear and understand sounds. This involves the analysis of auditory perception and how brain processes sound signals. So I will move to the phonetic task. The main task of phonetics is to provide notation and description for each speech sound. This involves notation, a transcription system that allows accurate voice recording. For example, the International Phonetics Alphabet APA is a system used to describe sounds. Each symbol represents one specific sound. For example, the sound in the word cat is transcribed as cat. Description characterized sound based on phonetic features. This feature can include the presence or absence of vocal cord vibration, voiced versus voiceless, and resonance type nasal versus oral. Speech sound features. Vocal cord vibration. When the vocal cords vibrate, the resulting sound is voiced. For example, b, d, g. On the other hand, if the vocal cords do not vibrate, the sound is voiceless. For example, p, t, k. Nasality. When air comes out through the nose, the sound produced is nasal. For example, m, n, d. If air only comes out through the mouth, the sound is oral. For example, b, d, g. Consonant classification in English. Consonants in English can be classified based on two aspects: place and way of articulation. Article Biblis pronounced with both lips. Example p, p, m. And the second one is labiodential, pronounced between upper front teeth and lower lip. Example f, v. Dential, this is the third one. Dential, pronounced between the upper front teeth and the lip of the tongue. For example, o, t in think. And for the third one is alveolars, pronounced in alveolar ridge. Example t, d, s, z. And fifth Pluna for shores, pronounced in the superfluous area, for example, s in ship. And the sixth, platters, pronounced in a hard selling area, example, j, ye, in yes. Fillers, pronounced in the shelf selling area, example, k, g, n. And eight, glottals, pronounced in glottis, example, glottal stop in oh. And how to article plosives oral stops, total closure between two articulation organs, example, p, b, t, d, k, g. Fricatives experience formation of narrowing that causes friction, example, f, v, s, z. Affricates a total closure that is then released by friction, for example, t, ch, in church or judge. Nasal, closing in the mouth with air coming out through the nose, example, m, n. Liquids, sound produced with relatively free airflow, for example, I or. Glides, a sound produced with insufficient narrowing to cause friction, for example, W and G. The conclusion from this point is that the understanding the understanding of phonetics and sound classification is very important in language studies, especially in the context of teaching foreign languages. By using a transcription system such as APA, teachers and students can more easily understand and reproduce different sounds in the target language. Okay, let's move to phonology. Phonology is a branch of linguistics that studies the sound system in a language, focusing on minimal sounds that can distinguish meanings, while phonetics pays attention to the physical aspects of sounds. Phonology is more concerned with how these sounds function in a language system. For the first is basic concepts in phonology. Phoneme is the smallest sound unit in a language that can distinguish the meaning. For example, in English, the sound p in the word pet and b in the word bat are different phonemes because they change the meaning of the word. And then contrast. The key concept in phonology is contrast. Two sounds can be considered as different phonemes is if replacing one sound with another changes the meaning of the word. This shows that the sound has a different function in the language. Minimal couple, and this is the second one, minimal couple technique. I'm sorry. One way to identify phonemes in a language is through the minimal pair technique. Minimal pairs are two words that only differ in one sound, and this difference changes the meaning. Minimum couple example: k and s, lick versus list. In this example, k and z are different phonemes because replacing one with another produce a different word. The third one is paradigmatic relationship. Phonology also involves a paradigmatic relationship, which is a vertical or choice relationship between language elements that exist in a certain environment and other language elements that can replace them. In the context of minimal pairs, we see how one sound can be replaced with another sound to produce different words, which shows the function of phonemes in the language system. The fourth one is phoneme in English. In standard British English, there are about 44 phonemes that can be identified. This includes consonants such as p, b, t, k, s, z, and etc. Vowels such as I, ad, and etc. Phonemes example: vowel phoneme I in C and I in sit. Consonant phonemes T in tip and T in dip. The fifth one is phonetics transcription. When we transcribe sounds from a phoneme point of view, we use phonemic transcription. In this transcription, we ignore details that are not phonetic, non-descriptive, and only record the phoneme itself. This transcription is usually written in slash. Transcription example: the word cat is transcribed as cat in phonemic transcription. This shows that the transcribed sound is the phoneme that distinguishes the word regardless the sound vibration that may occur in pronunciation. The sixth is the difference between phonemic transcription and phonetic transcription. Phonemic transcription, simpler, focusing on phonemes. For example, p, b, t are symbols for phonemes. And then phonetic transcription, more detailed, including all sound vibration. For example, ph for p, that is aspirated. Conclusion: phonology allows us to understand how sounds function in a language and how small differences in sounds can change the meaning of words. By using minimal pair techniques and phonemic transcription, we can identify and distinguish phonemes in language, which is very important in linguistic studies and language teaching. Understanding of phonology also helps in mastering pronunciation and accuracy in language. So now I will discuss about morphology, the study of phonemes and words. Morphology is a branch of linguistics that studies word structure and how words are formed from morphemes. Morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning in language. In this context, we will discuss some important terms related to words and morphemes. For the first is word definition. Word can be used in various meanings, including lexeme. This is a unit in the lexicon which is an abstract form that is not flexible and becomes the basics for all variation of its inflection. Lexeme is usually written in capital letters to distinguish it from its inflection variation. Example: the lexeme tag, including variations of inflection such as takes, taking, took, and taken. Syntactic word. This is the inflection form of the lexeme, including the form without inflection, zero inflection. Example, for example, take, takes, taking, took, and taken are all syntactic words. Inflection shows the change in the form of the lexeme so that the grammatical relationship with other lexemes in the phrase or sentence becomes clear. So next, orthographic word. This is a writing unit consisting of graphic symbols with spaces on both sides and without spaces in them. For example, life insurance is two orthographic words, while I'm is one orthographic word. And prodigium, the collection of all variations of inflection from a lexeme is called periodic. For example, for the lexeme take, the periodic consists of take, takes, taking, took, and taken. Every variation in this periodic is a syntactic word. Example in sentence. Let's look at the following sentence to understand how inflection works in a syntactic context. First, he takes them. In this sentence, takes is a predicate in the third person singular present tense. He is the subject while them is the object. All words in this sentence are inflected with he, considered zero inflected. The third is word classification. Words can be divided into meaning categorized, content words. These include nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and prepositions. They carry a more substantial meaning in the sentence. Function words. This includes conjunctions, pronouns, and auxiliary words. They function to connect and give structure to sentences. The fifth one is syntactic category definition. Traditionally, the syntactic category of lexeme is defined based on meaning. For example, a noun is defined as the name of a person, place, or thing. However, this definition is not always accurate. So, the American structuralist approach focuses on form to determine syntactic categorize. They analyzed word endings and how they function in larger constructions. Example, every word that ends with ness will be considered as a noun. And the sixth one is the difference between lexeme and syntactic word. Lexeme, an abstract concept of a word that includes all its inflection variations. For example, take is a lexeme that includes all its forms. Syntactic words, the construed form of lexeme in a certain context. For example, takes as a syntactic word which is a variation of the lexeme take. The conclusion of morphology plays an important role in understanding how words are formed and used in language. By distinguishing between lexemes, syntactic words, and orthographic words, we can better understand the structure and function of words in sentences. Morphological analysis also helps in language technique, teaching grammar, understanding, and vocabulary development. Now I will explain about morpheme. Morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning in a language that cannot be further divided without losing its meaning. There are abstract units that are often marked in parentheses. Definition of morpheme. Morpheme is the smallest unit that has meaning. For example, the lexeme teacher consists of two morphemes, teach and plus er, or while the lexeme albatross consists of one morpheme, albatross. Monomorph. Monomorphic words with morpheme, for example, albatross. Bimorphic words with two morphemes, for example, teacher. The second one is morph and allomorph. More physical relation of morphemes, for example, the word cat has the morph cats, which realizes the plural morpheme as. Allomorph variations of a morpheme that have the same meaning but occur in different phonological environment. For example, the plural morpheme as in English has their allomorphisms as for words that end with a voiceless non-sizzling sound. For example, cat. Z for words that end with a non-sizzling sound like bag. Is for words ending with a hissing sound, for example, bass. The third is phonological and allomorphic conditions. Allomorphs can be affected by various conditions. Phonological differences are often caused by the phonological environment. For example, the change of form S depends on the last sound of the word that accepts the morpheme. Lexical condition. In some cases, allomorphic differences are not caused by the final sound but by the word itself, as in the example of the plural ox, which becomes oxen with allomorph n. Morphological condition. In some words, our morpheme can affect our visualization of other morphemes. For example, in the word houses, the morpheme house is pronounced as house when standing alone, but becomes houses when plural morpheme s is added. The third one is morpheme category. Morphemes can be divided into two categories based on their ability to stand alone. Free morphemes. Morphemes that can stand alone as words. Example, house, albatross, and table. Bound morphemes. Morphemes that must be bound to other morphemes and cannot stand alone. For example, infix s for plural or suffix ly for adverb formation. Fifth is suffix and prefix. Suffix can be inflectional or derivative. The inflectional suffix does not create a new lexeme, only a variation of the same lexeme. For example, adding s to boy produces boys, which is the inflection form of the lexeme boy. And then prefix, always derived in modern English. Example, adding the prefix "n" to joy produces a new lexeme enjoy. The sixth is word and stem. Word, the part of the word that remains as the affix are removed. Words are usually single morphemes. For example, in unfriendly, the root is friend. Stem, the part of the word that is left is we remove the suffix or prefix. Example, the stem of unfriendly is unfriendly, and the stem of unfriendly is friendly. And the second is morpheme definition revision. Given that the meaning criteria can always be applied, we can realize we can revise the definition of morphemes as follows. Morphemes is the smallest unit that has meaning in language or allomorphic variation unit that cannot be further divided without losing its meaning or allomorphic variation. Informally, a morpheme is a part of a word that repeats with several constant variants and which is usually but not always meaningful. So the conclusion of this morphology is that morphology is an important aspect in linguistics that helps us understand how words are formed and function in language. By studying morphemes, we can better understand the structure of the words, the process of word formation, and how meaning can be changed through morpheme variation. This is very useful in language teaching and vocabulary development. So now I will discuss about syntax, study of phrases and sentences structure. Syntax is a branch of linguistics that studies sentence structure. Sentences are not built directly from words, but from constituents that can consist of more than one word, which is called a phrase. The following is an explanation of phrases, sentences, and grammatical functions in syntax. For the first is phrase. Phrase, an expression that is a constituent in a sentence and is an extension of the word or keyword. For example, in the sentence, the king laughed. And another example, my brother bought an expensive car. Another example again, John gave Mary apples. And then he went home. In those sentences, the king, my brother, and an expensive car are noun phrases or NP because the key element is the noun "n". And then the second one is sentence and clause. Sentence, an expression that minimally contains subject and predicate. Sentences can also contain additional elements such as complement and adjuncts. Example, in sentence NP, the king as the subject and verb phrase or VP laughed is the predicate. In sentence NP, my brother is the subject, both is the predicate, and NP, an expensive car, is the complement direct object. The third is complementary and adjunct complement a constituent whose presence is determined by a certain word in sentence NP. An expressive core is the complement required by the verb both adjuncts constituents that are not structurally required by the verb but provide additional information about place, time, manner, purpose, etc. For example, in sentence, my brother bought an expensive car on Tuesday. On Tuesday functions as a time adverbial. In sentence, he went home very quickly. Very quickly functions are an adverbial way. And the third is argument and grammatical function. Argument, subject, and complement together are called arguments from the predicate. An argument is an entity involved in a situation identified by a predicate. Example, in sentence, the predicate bought has two arguments: subject who buys and object what is bought. Grammatical function. Terms such as subject, predicate, object, direct and indirect, adverbial attribute, complement, and adjunct refer to grammatical functions that can be performed by constituents in sentences, while terms such as NP, VP, AP, ADVP, PP, and etc. refers to the syntactic category, which is the grammatical category owned by constituents. Example of sentence structure. Let's see some examples of sentence structures to clarify these concepts. Sentence: the king laughed. Subject NP, the king. Predicate VP, laughed. Sentence: my brother bought an expensive car. And the subject NP, my brother. Predicate VP, bought. Complement, direct, object. NP, an expensive car. The sentence: John gave Mary apples. Subject NP, John. Predicate VP, gave. Complement, indirect, object NP, Mary. Complement, direct, object. NP, apples. And then the sentence: he went home. Subject NP, he. Predicate VP, went. Complement, adjunct ADVP, home. Sentence: my brother bought an expensive car on Tuesday. The subject NP, my brother. And then the predicate VP, bought. Complement NP, an expensive car. And adjunct PP, on Tuesday. And then the sentence: he went home very quickly. The subject NP, he. Predicate VP, went. Adjunct ADVP, very quickly. And then the conclusion. Syntax is a fundamental aspect in linguistics that help us understand how words are organized into phrases and sentences. By studying sentence structure, we can understand how meaning is built through the relationship between constituents. This is very important in language analysis, grammar teaching, and language skills development. And now I will give a brief conclusion about morphology, syntax, and morphology and syntax. Yeah, morphology, understanding word structure and word formation from morphemes. Both free morpheme can stand alone, and bound morphemes requires other morphemes. This process involves affixation, both inflectional and derivative. Syntax, studying sentence structure and how constituents, phrases, and words are organized into sentences. This includes basic elements such as subject, predicates, complement, and adjuncts. And then the relationship of morphology and syntax. Both are interrelated. Morphology provides an understanding of word formation, while syntax explains how words are arranged in sentences. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching.